If Shadow had raised Team Sonic, it would result in a massive shift in the timeline, and more than likely, a very ideal timeline for most involved, even though the scenario may feel a bit redundantly familiar in some ways. For such a setup to happen, the Shadow of this timeline would most likely avoid capture at the hands of Gunn and a 50-year stasis after escaping the Space Colony Ark. This would likely make it a little easier for him to hold true to Maria and Dr. Gerald's original intentions for his creation. And speaking of that interest in maintaining a strong link to his origin, and even the inspiration the Doctor took in them, Shadow would wind up making his way to Angel Island eventually, and more precisely, Sky Sanctuary, where he would likely enjoy the solitude and establish a safe home and hideaway for himself, since it's fairly unlikely he'd want to sit idly by forever, and thus would inevitably look for good to do and happiness to protect. Shadow would also go on a good number of adventures, in an era of the Sonicverse we've never seen indepthly explored in canon, building himself up as a myth, legend, anti-hero, or according to the forces of Gunn, a villain, with Shadow spending the next 34 years of his life doing this, until something finally changes. Despite not outwardly showing it, Shadow begins to get old and lonely living this way, and always avoiding others would have also become boring by now, as it's very unlikely anyone could catch him. Certainly it's possible that a misunderstanding could take place so that Ivo Robotnik, Maria's younger cousin, winds up contracted and employed by Gunn, all in their desperation to catch Shadow and keep him quiet, resulting in things like a metal shadow android being created. And due to where his home is, he also got chased around by that echidna tribe once or twice when he got too close to their giant emerald, but it would have been a few decades since he'd seen any of them. And thus, overall, it would just be very hard for the ultimate life form to find himself a challenge, rivalry, or even companionship. And this loneliness would only continue to grow more intense, until one day, he stumbles across a young red echidna, whom he'd quickly come to realize is likely the very last of his kind, and thus, the sole guardian of the echidna ways and the Master Emerald. This event queuing up a chain of sequential events, which would go on to change Shadow's life even further, as in his travels and adventures, he finds two more orphaned children, a curious twin-tailed fox, and another hyperactive hedgehog, who could only be described as his polar opposite in everything but talent. Each of the three with endless amounts of untapped potential and possibilities, and so having matured enough to even entertain such notions, Shadow decides to train them, forging them into a powerful team to protect the world, partially because he thinks it will be fun, and also because he has come to miss the family he had on the Ark. Influenced by Shadow's teachings, Sonic retains his love for speed and adventure, but becomes more focused and strategic, learning the importance of discipline and preparation. Tails becomes more confident and independent, embracing his intelligence, and crafting advanced tech, gear, and weaponry to aid the team. Knuckles tempers his hot-headedness, and has better patience and focus with teammates and a master to help guard the Master Emerald, while the act of raising children helps soften and relax Shadow, and thus under his mentorship, Team Sonic becomes a more formidable and cohesive unit. Their personalities and skills evolved, blending their natural talents with Shadow's discipline and combat knowledge and experience. While the team might lose some of its carefree charm, it gains a deeper sense of purpose and strategy, as well as family, viewing Shadow as a father figure and each other as brothers, making them even more effective heroes. Would this stricter version of Team Sonic be as beloved as the original, or would Shadow's influence stifle their individuality? To know exactly, we just may in fact need a longer version of